Hello, everybody. Stu Smith here with Jeff Nichols, and we're doing another tactical fitness report on this is part 2 of our series of injury prevention. And what we're going to talk about is during your workout, how can you prevent injuries, right? We're going to get into all that. However, before we do, there's a great event that Jeff has masterminded and put together that's going to be up in Virginia Beach here in the next couple of weeks. August 27 and 28. That's a Monday and a Tuesday, right?
Correct.
And it's got some great people. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be doing a presentation. Jeff be speaking. Mitch Aguilar will be there. Steve Smith, and who Jeff is going to explain all that's going on. So Jeff, take it down the to-do list of all that's going to happen when people sign up for that.
Yeah, so again, I'll be as abbreviated because we're going to keep bringing information out. Or if you have very specific information, just reach out to myself or Stu directly. So the cast, we'll call us, right? There's a couple of surprises. And the reason why they're surprises is because they're really kind of, you'll find if you come, you'll find out. We'll just say that. It's not we're trying to exclude, but there's some things going on in the background that has some real value. But it's really, we're only giving that value to the people that show up. So, like Stu has already said, Stu will be there, and he and I will be presenting on topics, very specific topics like heart rate and energy system overview, how to program based off of heart rate and your energy systems appropriately, right? We're going to talk about prepping for a PST or just generally prepping for sport and performance in life anyway. They're all, so you understand, like, we're not really naming this buds or military because tactical is just a term, okay? If you teach people how to manage energy systems, it doesn't matter if they're an NBA player or a Ranger. It just, the job is a little bit different. It's a lot different, excuse me. It's extremely different, but the human body is a human body. Physiology is physiology, energy is. So we're going to teach you in a very simple way how to just begin that process, right? And then we'll talk about program design. Okay, we're going to talk, that's some things we're going to do. Stu had mentioned a man named Steve Smith. He was a dietitian at 5th Special Forces Group for quite a while, the NBA and the NFL, and now he's private. Been a friend of mine for a while, super knowledgeable human being. He is going to get it. He is scheduled for 3 hours. But understand, like, this is a 16-hour seminar with really no limitation of the time after each day that you can hold our ears or on breaks or whatever. So it's hard to put times to this. So Steve is going to talk about fad diets. Right, he's going to talk about recovery foods, kind of like what we're talking about today, but yeah. The expert, he's a clinical registered dietitian, he's a chef, and he's a clinical sports dietitian, all right? So he is a white unicorn, which is why he's coming, because there's only, that I know of in the country, there's only one other that's a chef and a clinical sports dietitian that's working in that field.
That's really cool.
So
I don't mind giving diet information every now and then, but I do not give it to this level that this guy's going to give. I mean, I'm just saying, hey, eat your carbs for energy, get your protein for recovery.
Yeah. We're going to dissect it. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the unnecessary and supplementation. We'll talk again, and then we're going to talk about, and then we have legitimately a Jedi Master coming as well, John Sullivan. Okay. He is one of, not even arguably, one of the best sports dietitians on the planet. Okay. And we talk about mindset and resiliency and all these sort of things. That's what he does for a living, specifically for the tactical and the sports space. Tier 1 units. That's who uses this dude. Okay.
Hey,
so that's
you broke up just a little bit. He's a sports psychologist, right?
Yep. He's a clinical sports psychologist. So here's the deal. You don't know this, but we chose the words very specifically, resiliency. Why? Because that's the clinical term. Mindset is the cliche, right? Yeah. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but when you have people saying, we're going to talk about the mind, you bet your ass you better have a PhD sports psychologist doing it, because that's their job, okay? Yeah. So that's why we're bringing in a clinical sports psychologist to work with Mitch and Kyle, as a team, to get everything you guys want to talk about from the good and bad and the ugly of it, right? So, and then outside of that, so
you mentioned Mitch Aguilar.
Yep.
Right. People might not be aware of him. Might be. He's a great MMA guy. Call him Smashing Frog. And then Kyle Maynard. What a great guy this guy is.
Yeah. So he's New York Times bestseller, motivational speaker, born without arms and legs. So what the hell's your excuse kind of thing. Climbed Kilimanjaro, sailed the stuff that you just can't imagine. And, he's been on the Tim Ferriss podcast. He's in Tim Ferriss's book, brilliant human being. So that's why what we're taking is, when we're talking about mindset or resiliency, we're not just taking the clinical side. We're taking, right, somebody that displays it on a daily basis like Mitch Aguiar and Kyle Maynard. And then we're teaming him up, those two guys up, with a clinical sports psychologist. Okay? So this is not a game, right? We're really trying to help you guys learn. So
that's day one.
That's day one, yeah.
That's day one. And then day two,
right,
is the goal of trying to put all that we just learned on day one to a test.
Yep.
To a degree. Maybe get a little gut check action there.
For sure. And it's going to be different because it's not just going to make you uncomfortable for the sake of making you uncomfortable. Because as some of us are purposely making you uncomfortable, right? The good cops, right? With John Sullivan, the clinical sports psychologist on the beach with you guys, helping you work through your issues in the moment. All right. Same with Kyle. Same with we have a couple other special guests that are going to be helping along too. But that's the idea. And that's in the morning of day two. And then the afternoon of day two, we get back to the hotel in the conference room. We're going to talk about sleep hygiene, sleep stress mitigation with myself and all of us, right? Specifically, John Sullivan's we're all going to be working this together, right? And then we're going to have time after it, right? Where we're going to talk about, we're going to critique it and get feedback and all these sort of things. And,
on the back end, we're going to have the board, everybody that was involved, and you guys who are there after experiencing everything, you have our ear. Yep. Ask us questions.
How do we make this thing better?
Or just how do we make you better? If there's something that did quite, we can finish it up right there and discuss it amongst the panel.
Exactly.
And you can get, you can hit everything. You can hit the mind, the body, the fuel, programming, everything like that, all in one big Q&A session.
Yep. And that's why, the last piece is that's why we're not having 100 people show up to this thing. We want small, we want intimate. So that way every single person gets exactly what they want. Like, the question is, why are you coming? Right? We're going to have that. What do you hope to take away? We'll have that day one, and we're going to all discuss it as a staff to make sure we deliver what you all need and want.
Yeah. Would you limit it to 40?
We limited it to 40, yes.
40? Okay.
Anyways, but hopefully we see some of you all there. It's already about half full. And, the cost, I get it. But understand this, Kyle Maynard charges $25,000 an hour. He'll be there for 16 hours, right? We could keep doing the math, folks, of how much I charge a day and Stu charges a day. So at our rate, if you do the math, it's about $76,000 a day is what if we all charge our daily fee. It'd be about $76,000 a day. We're charging $1,500 for two.
Yeah. Yeah,
seems
good point.
To me.
That's a good point.
John Sullivan alone charges that by an hour.
Yeah, that's
for his clinical work, or his $15,000-$20,000 a day is what he's going to charge probably. Right. So with a team in team environment, right? So anyways, enough about that. Hopefully we see you there. But so jumping into the segue here about
the workout.
Just jump right in. Let's go to, because like the big question is this is kind of where my head's at, and I'm going to have Stu take it away, is that we say we're all guilty of it, and I'm guilty of it all the time. And I say, hey, just listen to your body. Well, that's kind of what my idea, that's what this is all about. Like, how do we do that? Like, what steps do we take to help listen to our body? And it's not just like you do this to get an effect. Yes, you're doing right. You're wearing compression garments, for example, to get something, but understanding, well, why does it work? That's where we're looking about. If we have the why, then we can say, well, that's why we want you to listen to your body. Because if it's not acting normal, then we got to make changes. And then people are like, well, I don't know if it's not acting normal. You should. You got to pay attention. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. So last time, as you remember, it was all about planning. We were planning to do our workout. This is all planning, whether it was fuel, it was the gear that you're going to have, it was how you're going to, during the workout, what types of fuel can you have, whether it was electrolytes, some kind of carbohydrate drink, just things to prevent cramping, things that prevent low blood sugar, when you're really getting after it, that happens. And we talked about some of the gear that you're going to need, so I think during the workout, I think Jeff said it really well. You got to listen to your body, right? But also anticipate. Like this morning, we went running, and I looked at my watch or my phone, and it was 92% humidity at 8 a.m. and about 86 degrees. So it sucked. It was hot. It was humid. I made sure everybody had water bottles, had some drip drop in them. And we carried 2 of them along the run, dropped 1 of them about a mile in, because sure enough, when you're coming back, when do you need it the most? That last mile. So it was just something that we did as part of our planning, but it was also during our workout that we actually were able to save ourselves from really bonking out right there, when it could be dangerous, because that's what we're trying to avoid. One, we're trying to avoid cramping and low blood sugar and getting dizzy while you work out. That's the little things. We're talking about heat stroke, that you can avoid by being smarter, with your programming as well.
I'm just going to interject real quick on that, if I might, just because an example comes to mind. Before Stu and I are going to both probably take some different mental approaches to answering this question here. So just bear with me, folks, as this may or may not make sense. So like what Stu is saying, pay attention to your body. Like the example that I want to use is 2 people that I think are fantastic people and are displaying this sort of mental toughness that we all try to achieve, but we try to achieve it too fast. So like David Goggins is one of them. And then, Cameron Haynes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And like Cameron Haynes ran like a marathon every single day for like 51 days or something like that.
Yeah.
He's not a little guy.
He's got a
world-class hunter. Yeah. And so people are like, well, yeah, but Dave and Cameron, you're not Dave and Cameron. Number 1. And two, they weren't Dave and Cameron before they started training. No. And their training I did my very first deployment was with Dave Goggins in the teams. And that was in 2003. He hadn't even started the process then. About a year and a half later, he started getting into ultras and stuff. So look at the timeline, folks. Dave Goggins has been doing it for over a decade, more than a decade.
Yeah. To
get where he's at. Granted, he is incredibly mentally tough. And the first long run he did, where he explains on one of his podcasts, where basically his legs just were busted and bloody. That's Dave.
Yeah.
And that's commendable. But for the most part, and it's okay, you can probably get to where Dave and Cameron and some of us are at, but just don't try to do it so damn fast.
Yeah. Takes time.
That's what I mean by it. Cameron Haynes and Dave are going to go run 30 miles a day or something, right? And you're like, well, how do they do that? Well, it's because they've been training for it for 15 years, right? They didn't just wake up and go, today I'm going to run 40 miles. So don't be that person, okay? Try not to be.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That's my thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously, real results, what is the little saying? All R's. Real results require relentless repetition, right? And persistence and time, right? And this takes time to acquire that kind of just body resiliency that you're able to withstand that without breaking. Most of us are going to break, during that process. And David Goggins, he's a prime example of breaking during the process. Yeah. Mentally tough, push through it. Hey, sometimes there is game time, right? There is game time where, you have to realize that you're going through Hell Week or whatever, spec ops training that you're going to do, it's game time. You're going to be hurting. You're going to have injuries, right? You're going to be sucking up injuries going through it. There's no reason, though, for you to, along your journey, to acquire injuries on purpose to better prepare you for the fact that one day you're going to have an injury at Buds and you got to suck it up.
Or if it's not on purpose, it's one of those things where you just go, oh, this is a milestone that's inevitable. That's not true. It is. Now, when the workload goes up, the likelihood or the possibility of getting an injury increases, of course. But that's where, again, if we talk about, like, even if I'm quite certain. Now, I haven't seen Dave, and I've never met Cam. I haven't seen Dave in 15 years. And I've never met Cameron Haynes. But listening to them talk, they're both highly intelligent individuals. And I bet you, one-on-one or even in a setting, you said, all right, like, what should I do? I'm pretty sure that both of those guys, as somebody that's smart, and someone asked them, well, I want to be like you. They're both not just saying, here's my program, go do it. They're probably both going, all right, ease into the water. But then there is some point where you just got to, like, well, I've prepared. Now I got to jump, and I got to see if the body holds up. And that's where it's hard to say, because the human body across the board is pretty resilient from person to person. But some people just, they've got the gift, for lack of a better way, of just the body heals, the body repairs fast. But again, I'm also willing to bet that if you were to dissect Cam and Dave's lives as far as how they're sleeping, how they're eating, how they're treating themselves, it's probably quite efficient. And
absolutely.
The process is in place. That's probably in place.
Absolutely. It's a scale. If you're going to add this much stress to your life, you better be adding this much de-stress and recovery to your life to make it balance out. Otherwise, it's going to tip.
Right.
Another thing too, when we're talking about workouts and doing during the workout, there's one thing that can happen during your workout, and it's completely 9 times out of 10 your fault. And that is if you get rhabdomyolysis.
Yep.
Right. That is because you ignored some of the, signs that your body's telling you. You just
signs and then later symptoms, right? Yeah.
You just kept doing it and keep doing it, high reps after high reps. And that your body isn't quite prepared for all that repetition. You should not jump into an advanced workout if you have not done beginner workouts and intermediate workouts. You're going to hurt yourself and probably borderline kill yourself with rhabdomyolysis. I mean, it is a real
threat
ailment, and you see it a lot in Army boot camp. You don't necessarily see it a whole lot in Spec Ops. Every now and then you'll see it in Spec Ops.
Just the only thing we've kind of heard about it was like at BORTAC, right? That's
right.
But that's also a byproduct of the environment and the situation and just
absolutely
stuff. But
big muscles. You have dehydration. All those things kind of come into play. But once again, your planning can help you prevent that
for sure. And that's timeline. So folks, that's the thing is, like, Stu and I know we've mentioned this before. He and I we're fortunate enough to have a discussion with one of the cadre from BORTAC. And it's just that I think the biggest problem with that, for example, is that they're pulling from a population of men and women that are already border patrol. So they have a full life. They have a full work schedule. And then they're trying to, so for many of you guys in the military that are already active and trying to transition into a spec war billet, where it's like, well, you can't just, it's a lot of guys in the Navy, like one of the guys that, one of Cam's athletes about to go on an 8-month cruise. Like, well, how do I possibly prepare for PST? You go, well, that's a good question, because the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Border Patrol, whatever, they're not going to go, all right, man, take 6 months off from your daily schedule, prepare for the spec war billet, you're good. You still have responsibilities, and that's where the difficulty comes. And then that's where timeline, we say we don't want to take a 12-month training program based off of an individual and try to cram it in 6 weeks. You're going to break. You're going to break.
Yeah.
You will break.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the best way we can kind of sum this up is I have some rules when it comes to training. And I think over time, you will start to develop certain rules that apply to you. They may not apply to anybody else.
For sure.
They will apply to you. One of my biggest ones when it comes to running, and this will help you prevent injury or further exacerbate injuries, and that is, if it hurts to run, stop running. Right? If it hurts to walk, don't run. And if it hurts laying around doing nothing, go to a doctor. I mean, that's my running rule right there, and it applies to everything that I do. Right.
Yeah. And when Stu is saying also too, just keep this in mind, folks, when Stu is saying, if it hurts when you run, don't run. That doesn't mean you don't have to train. That means, okay, running, the pounding, the distance, the mileage, whatever. Let's not try to find a reason why it hurts. We just say it hurts. Okay, that's an indicator of many different things, but primarily overuse or injury. Overuse is good. Injury, it's going to take some more time, but most of the time it's overuse. So how do we, like, think of an eye doctor when they have the little thing in front of your face and they're trying to find out what your vision is so they can get the prescription, you know, is it better, worse, no change? Like, so you go for a run one day, pretty sore. Well, at a scheduled run the next day, you go for a run and go, was that pain better, worse, or no different, right? If it was less painful, okay, right? If it was more painful, shut it down.
Yeah, if it was hurting while you were walking to the track, don't even do it.
Shut it down.
The bicycle.
Get something a little low impact, right? Yep. Get in the pool with fins on.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Not hard, because here's the thing is, one of the quickest ways to recover from these, and this is where it's a slippery slope, so listen very, very carefully, folks. One of the best ways to improve or begin to recover is to have some active activity, increase blood flow. That doesn't mean increased pounding and trauma and load and velocity. One of those really great things is go for a walk. Go for a long walk, right? If you are going for a long walk and your tibialis anterior tightens up the front of your shin, you've been running for 6-8 weeks, you go for a long walk, let's say a long walk, go for a 30-minute walk and your shins start tightening up. There's it kind of reared itself. Yeah. You go, ooh, all right, that is an issue because walking hurts. Okay. Pay attention. That doesn't mean that, oh my God, if I don't run for a day, I'm going to lose. No. Outside of, and here's my last piece, folks, is this is why. If you are just overtrained and you take time off, you don't lose training days. And I say taking time off mean like, well, I'm going to get in the pool today. I'm going to ride the bike. You know, I'm going to take it easy for 6 to 10 days, but I'm still going to train fairly regularly. You don't really lose training time. You let your body heal. But if instead you go, I'm going to push, injury. Now you lose training time. Even if you're still training, you're just going to get worse, worse off. So from a cardiovascular standpoint, if you're just in a bit of overtraining, but you're not injured or sick, your VO2 doesn't drop for 21 days.
Right. Plus, so you can really – I've actually come back stronger after some overuse injury type from running, where I took about 10 days off of running. But every one of those 10 days I was swimming and I was biking and I was doing some elliptical exercises and hard stuff like pyramids. Like every minute I increased the resistance on it and increase the speed, Tabata intervals. Right. 20-second sprint, 10-second easy. So my VO2 max was working. When I started running again, I ran with no pain, and my lungs were in a way that, you know, is like I never took off any running. So you can still work around it. And that's part of this. You know, you have an injury, you still need to work out, but you just need to work around that injury so it doesn't affect other elements of your tactical fitness athletics. Got another rule. Here's where a lot of people screw up, especially when they're preparing for fitness tests, is they just keep doing calisthenics day after day after day, same muscle groups day after day after day. And then eventually that becomes a pretty high volume. So you're getting a couple hundred repetitions of push-ups and sit-ups and, 100 repetitions of pull-ups, and you're not giving yourself, adequate time to recover. So I kind of treat high volume calisthenics the same way I treat heavy weightlifting. Like I do not do a back-to-back heavy weight training day of that same muscle group, so I'm not squatting, 5x5s on Monday and Tuesday. If I do it, days, I do, give yourself 48 hours before you hit that muscle group again. If you wanted to, and here's where it gets a little slippery. So once again, listen. If you wanted to add some weights to a high repetition calisthenics day, what I would recommend is do that same muscle group just a little bit later. So you hit the push-ups, the pull-ups, the dips, go crazy. Get yourself a pyramid in there, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 200 dips, whatever, right? 1-10-1. That's classic way to get some reps in. Later on in that day, get yourself a bench press. Try some weighted pull-ups.
Yep.
But
use bands. Yeah, use some bands.
yeah, use some bands, use some, some auxiliary muscles, working, biceps and triceps, rear delts, front delts, work some overhead presses. But don't do anything upper body the next day, and then
Right.
come back around to Wednesday. Kind of depends on how you're feeling. If you're not used to that kind of volume on day one, you probably aren't ready to do it again on day 3.
Right.
You might have to push that over to day 4 and maybe do just a cardio or maybe a leg day on, so I tend to do upper body, lower body splits with our workouts. One day's upper body, one day's lower body. And we don't ever have those kind of problems, manifest themselves just because it's just a way to spread out the recovery, but not take a complete day off and do nothing.
Yep. Yeah. One of my hard and fast rules is that, along that same lines where you're saying, take some time off or whatever, like don't do successive, is that hard and fast rule for me is when you're looking at a program, Monday isn't associated strictly to a body part, or Tuesday or Wednesday. Like, oh, Wednesday's squat day, I had to stay at work late, so I'm just gonna no. It's a block format, and that also really accommodates overuse, injury, and all those sort of things too. Because like, oh man, I just really feel like crap. But it's like I really want to train, I need to train, but I need to keep my intensity down, my volume down. But I enjoy training. I want to. It's part of the process, right? So pull something in that's like, right. And Stu said it's like a day. The value in a day can be anything. It may be foam roller and stretching and those sort of things. That in of itself brings value to your program. It doesn't devalue it. So a lot of people are like, well, I'm not training today. I'm losing ground. No, by taking and using that day as an active recovery day, you're going to lose less real valuable training days. It's those recovery days, or those active recovery days that Stu uses, like when he busts out, like, the carb buffer, the foam roller, and all those sort of things. Now, because use Stu as the example. When he does that, what does he do? He doesn't miss training days.
Right. Oh, it's classic.
If he didn't do it, he would be missing training days, or absolutely. At least his days would be just really Friday, inefficient.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great story. 5 years ago, I introduced a mobility day. Right. Everybody was kind of banged up. We hit it hard. It was a high running, high repetition cycle, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And it was going to be another leg day on Thursday. And, I said, you know what? Let's back it off today. And it was my first time doing it. It was about 5 years ago. I said, let's just do bike and elliptical 5 minutes, and then we'll stretch and foam roll for 5 minutes. And we're going to do that until it's time to swim, which was, we had an hour to do that, back and forth. 5 minutes on the non-impact, 5 minutes stretching, foam rolling. Back and forth. Did that 5 rounds. And that was one of the best days, because here's why it was so good, is that usually had we gone and done a leg workout or a run that day, that'd been Thursday. Friday would have absolutely sucked.
Yep.
And Saturday would have been even worse.
The walking wounded on
right.
Saturday.
So what happened was that Thursday, even though it was a good cardio day, we swam afterwards.
They increased blood flow, folks, without increasing impact.
Right. Yeah. And then, made Friday and Saturday just off the charts. And everybody was like, man, usually Friday sucks. I'm ready to roll. So it's almost like having a weekend day off, without the day off. So it's.
Think, guys. Blood brings nutrients. Blood brings oxygen, specifically to areas that don't get a lot of blood flow. Cartilage, tendons, and ligaments. Also, of course, the muscles and the circulatory system, all that sort of stuff. But if we look at what Stu does with his athletes in that context, it should be this light bulb that comes on and go, man, that sounds real. Like what Stu is explaining, had I not done this, Friday would have sucked. Saturday would have been the walking wounded. If any of you are going, well, that kind of sounds like me by the end of the week. Light bulb, I hope.
Yeah. Think about it, middle of the week, Wednesday or Thursday, throw in a mobility day. And all it is non-impact. And here's what I do. 5 minutes of bike or elliptical or rowing, 5 minutes of foam rolling and stretching. Do that 5 times. Then I go to the pool. And all I do is I swim 10 minutes in the pool. I tread 10 minutes, no hands, really work the hips, try to move different modes of kicking, scissor kicks, front and back, breaststroke kicks, egg beater, flutter kicks, just move your legs as much as you can, 10 minutes. And then after that, I go do all the dynamic stretches that I can possibly think of in chest deep water.
Yeah.
And that is a complete lifesaver.
Yep. That's what I do. Yeah.
I will tell you this, after 40, my hips really started hurting. When I go in these high mileage running, I have no hip problems now. I have, hamstrings are nice, lower back, loose, and these are after long run days. I'm still running a lot. I'm rucking a lot. We get the swims in as a good cool down on the back end, and then always end it with those dynamic stretches in the pool. And I tell you what, that is a great end of hard workout. Even if you're not going to do a recovery day, just give yourself 5 or 10 minutes on the back end of your workout, and you can save yourself from a lot of pain later in the week.
Yeah. Something very similar that I do. I'll incorporate some treading with fins. So I use long fins. I'll use a free dive fin, like a 4.5 foot free dive fin, or a long swim fin that's 2.5 feet. So my kicks are real big and long. And then I'm flexible enough, and I'm a sinker, because even with the sweatsuit on, like a 351, I sink to 14 feet. I'm sinking through and through. So even with the wetsuit, I sink, even in salt water, right? So I'm just like part lead.
It's effort. It's
right?
effort.
So what I do is I'll get in a tuck overhead, like a swim tuck in the deep end, and I exhale in a swim tuck. When my feet hit the bottom, I'm essentially going to an overhead squat, and then I push off the bottom, big breath. It's not like a dive, like it's not a training thing like for buds. For me, it's about increased circulation, increased mobility through my hips in water that provides pressure, right? You're getting compression in water.
Yeah.
You are, especially beyond 9 feet, right? You're in a different atmosphere after 9. So the pool I swim in is 12. So you're getting some pressure, which is good. So you're getting venous return. So I'm getting up here, I sink to the bottom, right? I go into a deep squat, right? I get real deep on the bottom, and then I push, head up.
Nice.
Big deep breath. I pull my hands through. I get into a tuck and I sink. Big squat off the floor. Boom. I do that for 10 minutes.
Yeah. I do something real similar to that. I do almost like doing jumping jacks.
Yep.
So I go all the way to the bottom, pull myself down with my hands.
Yeah.
Right. And then I pull myself up with my hands. So it's almost like this good shoulder mobility too.
Sure.
And that's.
Yeah. The other side too is you do it with a brick. You do it with a 10-pound brick.
Ooh, yeah.
And it just pushes you down then, right? And then you come to here, and I push off the bottom, breathe, extend overhead, because I want to get good shoulder mobility, and I have a brick now. Or you can get a PVC pipe that's about this long, so it's hollow, and you hold on to that, and it'll sink. Just gives you something to rotate those humeruses off of. So I do that in the pool as well, and it's just a way for me to down-regulate, because it's all set through breathing. Yep. It really is. So it gives me a chance to find that rhythm, right? Breathe when I need. And that's why I like water so much. Water is, and I know Stu uses it so much for his guys, like, hey, we're kind of beat up. Let's get in the pool.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point, because, this is still part of the workout. We are just finishing the workout with just a really thorough cool down.
Yep.
Is really all it is. And it's often neglected by so many people.
Yep.
Right? If you just give yourself 10 or 15 minutes to cool down, whether that's in the water or doing some dynamic stretches on land or just cooling down with some non-impact cardio, it really does help, relieve some of that post-exercise soreness that you can definitely get if you were just to leave the gym, immediately without all of that. So,
because think about this, guys, and this is my conclusion, is that I am going to assume, and forgive the assumption, that the vast majority of you that are using swimming as a training protocol, for the most part, will get out of the water and go, man, I feel way better. You might be tired, but everything kind of is loose and limber and feel good. And so for me, I'm not a much of a morning workout person at all, except for I'm very comfortable swimming in the morning. So think about that, guys. And that's the real takeaway. The real takeaway is when you get done with your training each day, if you feel like you have to get into a coffin to recover, take time off. If you feel like, man, I'm tired, but I feel loose and limber, you're on track. Okay? So just keep that in mind, and that's where water is a real good indicator.
Yep. Love it. Love it. All right. So if you got any questions, post them in the video comments. And if you have any questions about the event that's coming up on August 27, 28, you can email myself, Mitch Aguilar. Go to his site, smashingfrog.com, and he has the big seminar link there that you can actually reserve your spot. I think there's a few more spots. We were talking about maybe making a few more spots available, but we'll see if that occurs. It's getting tight. So if you want to act now. You got another 2 weeks before it starts. So,
And then again, folks, there is no guarantee we're going to do this a second time. Do we want to? Yes. But again, our focus is on this event that we know is happening. And so we're pulling out the stops that we can. We're bringing in professionals that I can't answer for. And quite frankly, there are people that are making these assumptions that the information these sort of folks are going to deliver, we can just make it up as we go, right? We can talk about mental toughness and deliver. No, we can. That's why it's so. I can't emphasize the value of having all spectrums of mental resiliency around. And I mentioned, the SEAL thing, right? Like a big part of the SEAL is mental toughness. Well, all SEALs are doing, quite frankly, folks, or former SEALs or BUD students that succeed, they are expressing resiliency physically and emotionally. The point is they're doing it, right? Then you have the doers, and then you have the teachers of how to do it. Now, BUDS doesn't necessarily teach that from a parochial standpoint. It teaches it through attrition because it doesn't have time. Understand, I'm defending BUDS and naval social warfare because it is not, understand this, it is not naval special warfare's job to make you mentally tough. It's their job to find out if you are.
Yep.
A guy like John Sullivan, living is made off of making people or helping people find that intrinsic motivation. And it's a clinical thing. It's not like, hey man, just don't be a pussy. That works from the standpoint of the person doing it. But someone that isn't in a state of mind to go, you know what? I'm going to endure this. Screw it. I don't care. There's not many people like that, but you can learn to do that. And you need a professional. And that is why we're bringing in a professional. Okay. I'm not a resiliency expert. That's not my job.
No.
Okay.
We have been resilient in the past, but
we
qualified. Are we qualified to teach resiliency? No. I'm not qualified to teach resiliency.
Yep.
I'm just going to make you, try to reach a breaking point and see if you can make yourself stronger.
Yes.
That's about the best I can do. We're actually going to learn how it works, physiologically, psychologically, in the brain, in the body, and why, and how you can feed that better. Just be smart about it. I remember when I took my first resiliency class, is 10, 15 years after BUDS, I was like, oh yeah, I did that. I didn't realize I did that. There's a lot of things that, just like taking a deep breath before you shoot. That is learn how to breathe.
A primal response to a physical stressor, an emotional stressor. And when you say that, like when you get people really uncomfortable, right? Water, darkness, and sand do a really good job.
Yeah.
Because it can make you feel alone and cold and miserable. Well, that physical stress elicits, and if you have 10 people, it's going to elicit some similar stressors, and then you have some outliers that affect, might someone get catatonic, or someone might freak out and run out, and then the rest of us just sit there in misery. But when you have these people encounter those stressors, if you have a professional literally there seeing it in the moment, then you can address it. Right? It's like raising a child. A child does something stupid, you don't go, I'll address it later. I'm too busy. No, you address it now. Why? Because it's a point of learning.
Yep.
And that's why we can't. Now, don't get me wrong. There is real value in having like a seminar type environment, and someone's up there getting everyone fired up and like, this is mental toughness. And then my hand goes up and go, okay, how do you teach it? And someone goes, don't be a pussy. And I go, you're a terrible teacher. Okay. So, and I know like I've said that and Mitch says that, but understand like the context of what we're trying to drive is that we're good cop. We've been through it, kind of bad cop. And then we got to bring good cop in to help teach us even.
Oh yeah.
I don't.
I plan on being a student as well. When these guys are talking,
Yeah.
nutritionists are talking, you can always learn something. You know, I've been doing this for a long time now, but I am constantly learning.
For sure.
You know, and you know, the world of physiology and psychology does not stand still. It is also constantly evolving. It's like technology. You know, your computer that you bought 2 years ago is outdated, right? There's new stuff out there that people are creating and coming up with and discovering. You know, even though it's, I mean, there's some things that will always hold true with physiology and psychology, but there are new skills and techniques and methods of teaching that, you know, might hit you in a way that, you know, you might have heard the same science, but taught in a different way. It actually struck a chord.
Yep.
You know, and you listened this time, right? So
yeah, and so just as Stu and I teach programming for physical preparation of buds, it's a process, and it's systematic and it's finite. And when there's mistakes, he and I can look at it and make adjustments for people because we know that about physiology. Understand this, that exact same model can be done with the mind, but it takes someone that understands it, like a John Sullivan or a Jordan Peterson, or like, because the way I see the physicality of sport and training, it's very easy for me, but it just takes some real work and tweaking. But I don't have that for how to develop the mind. Only a clinical psychologist or sports psychologist or someone that is a psychologist in that field can do that. So that's what we're doing. Okay,
Yep.
That's what John's doing, and we also get by proxy be students.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So there you go. Next time we talk, we are going to talk about after the workout. You know, how you can prevent injuries with after the workout. And that's when we really get into a lot of the products that are available out there to help with the recovery. Because I tend to think of working out not like this. I don't think of workout as pre-workout, workout, post-workout. I think it of like this. I think it of as post-workout, pre-workout, workout.
Yeah.
Because it's all part of, you know, the post and pre from your previous workout. You know, after you're done, you know, you have to be starting the process of preparing for the next workout.
Yep.
And that starts off with cooling down and post-workout, and also starts with prepping for the next workout. So
yeah, look in the tactical space, folks. We when we are looking at exfil on a mission, we plan for that, right? Like that's the workout, like that's the mission. We don't go, well, we've got helicopters on the way in, but we're not sure how we're going to get out. Well, let's go anyway. It doesn't happen, right? So no, like when you wake up in the morning for your workout, know how you're going to prep for the next day. And that goes into programming. It's why Stu says, don't do heavy squats successive days.
Right.
For example.
All right. Cool, man. So there we go. So next time we'll talk about post-workout and all the neat things that you can do and learn from our experiences that have helped us in the past. So
appreciate it, Stu.
There you go. Thank you.